First glimpse of the royal baby in Britain. Reports say Bossi lied to go on trial soon, and government registration of subdivided flats being considered. Good evening. The government committee tasked with coming up with long-term housing policies plans to provide temporary accommodation for those living in subdivided flats and other substandard homes. The committee is also considering the implementation of a registration system for subdivided flats. Evelina Leung reports.
Brother Hong moved into this subdivided flat in Sham Shui Po a couple of months ago. He is paying $1,600 in rent per month. With a decrease in old tenement buildings and a surge in the number of people moving to Hong Kong, we are stuck with renting these subdivided flats. According to figures from a consultation report and the Census and Statistics Department, more than 74,000 families currently live in subdivided flats, rooftop houses, and units at industrial buildings. The Long-Term Housing Strategy Steering Committee has called living conditions there unfavorable. Sources pointed out that the committee wants to offer temporary accommodation for these residents. As to where these homes will be located, some committee members want the government to build homes on plots of land that are currently unused. However, others said if the government has to go through the process of building temporary homes, it might as well simply increase the supply of public housing. The government body also suggested a registration system for subdivided flats to better monitor hygiene and fire safety. There are an estimated 59,000 subdivided flats around town. However, a non-government housing organization complained that the government committee has failed to take into consideration subdivided flats in buildings over 50 years old. That's because these buildings will be earmarked for redevelopment. And the government said earlier that some subdivided flats in industrial buildings have structural and safety problems and have to be torn down immediately. But sources say the steering committee is still planning to look into switching the land use of these plots from industrial to residential. Evelina Leung, TVB News.
There are reports the trial of disgraced politician Bo Xilai could begin as early as this week on the mainland. The Reuters news agency quoted a sources saying the trial is most likely to take place in the city of Jinan in Shandong province. It would mark possibly the beginning of the end of China's most sensational scandal in decades. Bo, the former Communist Party chief in Chongqing, is expected to be tried on charges of bribery, embezzlement, and abuse of power. Bo's wife, Gu Kailai, and his former police chief, Wang Lijun, are both serving long jail terms in connection with the 2011 murder of British businessman Neil Heywood. Bo's downfall came after Wang fled to the U.S. consulate in Chengdu and accused Bo's wife of poisoning Heywood. She was later convicted and handed a suspended death sentence. She's serving life in prison. Wang is serving 15 years. Before the scandal erupted, Bo had been widely tipped to be promoted to the Communist Party's elite inner core.
To London now, where an historical moment was celebrated when a beaming Prince William and his wife Kate presented the world with the first glimpse of their baby boy, who is now third in line to the British throne.
Amid the cheers of the masses outside St. Mary's Hospital, the proud parents officially presented the future monarch so that he could be photographed by the international media. As Kate gently held the little prince swaddled in a blanket, his face was barely shown, but you could hear him crying. After Kate passed off the baby to Prince William, he graciously fielded questions from the hungry media by joking how his newborn son already commands their attention.
Well, he's got a good pair of lungs on him, that's for sure. He's a big boy, he's quite heavy, but we're still working on a name, so we'll have that as soon as we can.
And Kate responded to a question about the baby's delivery.
Yeah, it's very emotional. It's such a special time. I think any parent, I think, will probably sort of know what this feeling feels like.
The couple were also good-humored about who the baby takes after more,
It's got her looks, thankfully.
No, I'm not sure about that.
admitting that he's already changed one of the baby's nappies. Prince William joked that his son already has more hair than he does.
She's got way more than me, thank God. Thanks a lot, thank you.
After placing the future king in a car seat, the couple secured the baby in their vehicle. Then it was off to Kensington Palace, where the happy family will live. Earlier in the day, the first in line to the British throne, Prince Charles, emerged from the hospital, beaming with pride after meeting his first grandson. Kate's parents also visited and expressed their joy.
He's absolutely beautiful. They're both doing really well, and we're so thrilled.
To mark the birth of Britain's new prince, bells chimed at Westminster Abbey, where William and Kate were married. Over at Buckingham Palace, Queen Elizabeth and members of the royal family threw a reception to recognize outstanding achievements by UK businesses. Royal baby revelers in Kate's hometown of Bucklebury were bursting with pride.
We all regard him as local. Certainly Kate's local, she's part of the village, and we're hoping he'll be part of the village.
No word yet on naming the royal baby, but choices such as George, James, Alexander, and Louis are among the favorites.
An estimated 400,000 Catholic faithful descended on Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro on Tuesday to celebrate the beginning of World Youth Day. Pope Francis, who arrived in Brazil the day before, was taking a rest day and did not make an appearance.
Throngs of young Catholic followers came from all over the world, waving the flags of their countries to inaugurate the week-long event. World Youth Day is expected to draw more than 1 million people. The event, held every 2 or 3 years, has taken on a special meaning this year, as it's an opportunity for the flock to get an introduction to Pope Francis, who ascended to the papacy in March. Before Mass started, the Pilgrim's Cross and icon of the Virgin Mary were carried to the stage. The cross and icon are considered powerful symbols of World Youth Day. The Mass was led by the Archbishop of Rio de Janeiro, who called on the gathering to renew their commitment to the Christian community. Pope Francis, who is taking a rest day ahead of events scheduled for later this week, attended a private church service. Brazilian officials hope his message of solidarity with the poor and his willingness to meet the people will minimize the possibility of political protests which have plagued the country for weeks. The trip to Brazil is the only one abroad the Pope has scheduled for this year. He plans to visit his native Argentina next year. Alan Buckney, TVB News.
U.S. Vice President Joe Biden met with some of India's business leaders today in an effort to boost economic ties. That follows meetings yesterday with India's President Pranab Mukherjee and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. The high-profile discussions signal increasing efforts to upgrade bilateral relations. The U.S. is planning to rebalance its foreign policy toward the Asia-Pacific region. Officials say a raft of issues was discussed, including ways to boost trade and ease American investment into India. Biden's visit lays the groundwork for a summit meeting between Singh and President Barack Obama in Washington this September.
Anthony Weiner found himself caught in another sex texting scandal yesterday, much like the one that destroyed his congressional career. Still, he stood side by side with his wife to say he will not drop out of the race for mayor of New York. Weiner held a news conference hours after a gossip website posted X-rated text messages and a crotch photo that the former congressman allegedly exchanged with a woman. Weiner confirmed sending sexually explicit photos and messages to a woman online last summer. He then turned the microphone over to his wife, who used to work for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She affirmed her support for her husband and said she had forgiven him. Meantime, three of Weiner's rivals for mayor immediately called on him to drop out of the race. And still ahead in our newscast, a plan to auction off part of 3G mobile spectrum. Park and Shop workers are reassured of no change to pay and benefits. And B is trained to detect landmines.
Welcome back. Telecommunications company has voiced opposition to government plans to introduce greater competition by taking back part of the 3G mobile spectrum and auctioning it off. The existing 4 telecommunications companies' licenses for their 3G mobile spectrum are set to expire in 2016. The government has put forward 3 options for public consultation: to fully open up the spectrum, keep things unchanged, or let the existing operators keep 2/3 of the spectrum and auction off the remainder. Officials plan to finalize their decision by October. An operator of 3G data services says it is against plans to auction off part of the spectrum and may launch a judicial review. But Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Greg So is assured there will be sufficient time for stakeholders to express their views. More calls today to revise the direct subsidy scheme for schools. Critics say students from low-income families are deprived of better education opportunities as a result. Rachel Leung has the story.
Say no to the direct subsidy scheme. These alumni of St. Stephen's Girls College chanted outside the Legislative Council. The school has already filed an application to make the switch. If successful, it would allow the government-aided school to start charging students tuition fees. The protesters fear this will prevent students from less well-off families from attending the school. They met with lawmakers today to express their discontent and urged them to help block the application. They also called on the government to revise the scheme. Another group of protesters also showed up at LegCo today. They're against a bid by St. Paul's Secondary School in Happy Valley to switch to the direct subsidy scheme. The Education Bureau yesterday rejected the school's application. While the protesters welcomed the government's decision, they too called on officials to revise the scheme. Former Education Chief Joseph Wong agrees. He said the direct subsidy scheme fails to take into consideration the interests of those who are less well off. Rachel Leung, TVB News.
4 of the 23 students disqualified from the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education Chinese exam spoke out today. They say they were misled by their teacher into including internet material in their schoolwork without quoting the sources. The students want the school and the teacher to apologize. Joel De Silva reports.
These students were disqualified from their HKDSE Chinese language exam after they were found to have copied materials off the internet for their projects under the School-Based Assessment, or SBA. Now they say their teacher at Modern College told them to not put too much time or effort into the exercise because it wouldn't bear much weight in their final grade.
He told me to directly go to internet and search the data, and then I just finished the job and then I just hand in this homework to him.
Moreover, according to their version of the facts, they asked the teacher whether they would have to quote the source of the information, question to which the teacher's reply was no. The students admitted they should bear responsibility, but demand an apology from the school and the teacher. They also want the Hong Kong Examinations and Assessment Authority to clarify why they were disqualified from the entire exam instead of just discounting their SBA coursework, which was worth 20% of the final mark. The school admitted earlier that the teacher did not ask the students to fill in a form stating that they had made use of internet materials. That teacher no longer works at the school. João da Silva, TVB News.
Successful applicants for the latest batch of leftover home ownership scheme flats began selecting their favorite units today. More than 830 flats in Tin Shui Wai are up for sale. Now, most of them suffered from short piling problems and were put on hold in 2000. But as Vicky Kung reports, some aspiring homeowners express little concern.
To buy or not to buy? The flats in question are the 640 units in Block K and Block L at Tin Chung Court. They went on sale today under the government's Home Ownership Scheme, or HOS. These apartments were deemed structurally substandard because of short piling problems in the 1990s, but remedial work was later carried out. Some buyers said they don't mind. Mr. Chang and his family went to take a look at one of the flats. He said he's satisfied with the unit and is not worried because the government gave him the reassurance. He also said he cannot afford flats without previous defects. However, others don't feel the same.
I don't want to take the risk.
Mr. Ma also said it's because HOS applicants cannot check whether the electricity and water supply functions properly when they inspect the apartments. An expert in building inspections, meanwhile, said the government should have all appliances up and running in the flats so that potential buyers can carry out a thorough check. Tim Chai Nam said the government's inspection is not enough. It's better if people can turn on the taps themselves to see if the drainage system is really working. Apart from the flats affected by the short piling scandal, the other 193 flats now on offer at the HOS Sales Center in Lok Fu are mostly located in other residential blocks of Tin Chung Court. Only 7 units are situated in Ma On Shan and other areas. After inspecting the flats, people will have to decide whether to take or to reject the apartment in one day. If they're not satisfied, they can always come back to pick another one until they find one that they like. Vicky Kung, TVB News.
A.S. Watson Group, which wholly owns the Park & Shop supermarket chain, spoke out today on its decision to ask Park & Shop workers to transfer their employment to a new subsidiary. It called the move part of a restructuring process and stressed that the workers' wages and benefits will remain unchanged. Ronnie Samtani has more details.
Park & Shop employees have expressed concern after being asked to sign an agreement transferring their employment from A.S. Watson to a new subsidiary, Park & Shop Hong Kong. This comes amid reports that the supermarket chain is up for sale. But A.S. Watson reassured them the transfer of their employment is just part of a corporate restructuring process.
So as the company expands, it is quite necessary that we relook at the structure and do the reorganization. The second reason is that in Hong Kong, recently and also upcoming, there will be a lot of new regulations that will be launched that will impact the operations in retail.
Nai also stressed that employees were well informed of the company's plans. She also reassured that there would be no change to the workers' wages, benefits, and years of service with the company. Up till now, close to 90% of Park & Shop employees have signed the employment transfer agreement. A.S. Watson said it will continue to communicate with other employees. But the company did not say what will happen if workers choose not to sign the agreement. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
Hato is a new name for tropical cyclones in the western North Pacific and the South China Sea in the current year. It replaces Washi, the name of a storm that caused heavy casualties in the Philippines almost 2 years ago. Tropical storm Washi brought flash floods and landslips to the southern Philippines in December 2011, leaving more than 2,300 people dead or missing. Under an international convention, a country or region that has suffered serious human casualties and economic losses from a tropical cyclone may propose to remove its name from the World Meteorological Organization's name list. At a meeting in Hong Kong earlier this year, the Typhoon Committee of the world body endorsed that Washi will be replaced with Hato. Proposed by Japan, Hato is also the name of a constellation. Okay, I can never say that word, meteorological. It's just horrible, horrible word.
You did it, you did it.
All right, over to you for some sports today.
All right. Everyone is still talking about Barcelona's new coach. Argentine Gerardo Martino says he'll try to live up to the challenge. Alan Buchnia has more.
The man known as Tata, or Granddad, met the media in Argentina after he was named Barcelona's new coach. Martino had this to say about his hiring. Because of the unfortunate circumstances, I'm very pleased the Catalans looked at me and my coaching staff. We always hope we'll be able to work together in everything that happens in Barcelona this season. The unfortunate circumstances he was referring to, his predecessor Tito Villanova's illness that forced him to step down. And he said Lionel Messi and his father had something to do with him landing the job. Both Messi and Martino are from Rosario, and Messi has pledged to support the man who coached Argentine club Newell's Old Boys last season. Barcelona gave him a 2-year contract and praised him for his commitment to the passing game and attacking style. As for fans, at least one is cautiously optimistic.
To be honest, he's going to have to win everybody over, I reckon. I mean, it's big shoes to fill. Tito, you know, the way he went out. So, yeah, I think fans will get behind him as always, and, yeah, just needs to come in and put a stamp on things, one would imagine.
And what do their rivals say? Real Madrid goalkeeper Diego Lopez said Martino had done good things with the Paraguay national team and in South American football. So it's a good signing for the Catalans, he said. Alan Booknia, TVB News.
Manchester United says Wayne Rooney's recovery from a hamstring injury is on track. The Red Devils also insist the England striker is not for sale, even though he's being pursued by Chelsea.
And are Chelsea wasting their time still with all this fuss back home?
Well, we've said, and the club's said that no, he's not for sale, and that's not changed. He's coming on. He started light jogging, and the feedback I'm getting from the physios is that he's progressing.
In baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals continued to lead the way in the National League Central Division. They took care of the Philadelphia Phillies last night. First, great defense by the Cards. An outstanding play by shortstop Pete Kozma here, robbing Carlos Ruiz of a base hit. And then timely hitting. Yadier Molina doubled home a run in the 4th inning. David Freese added an RBI single later in the frame. St. Louis took this one 4-1. The Cards now have a record of 60 wins and 37 losses and lead the Pittsburgh Pirates by 1.5 games in the division.
And finally, Croatian scientists have developed a method of training honeybees to clear landmines. The bees, fed with sugar scented with the smell of TNT, are capable of sniffing out landmines buried in the ground in a matter of days. A researcher at Zagreb University says bees are perfect for the job because they have an acute sense of smell. Once the bees are trained up, they can detect particles of the TNT in the air and then gather directly above those landmines. The method will help speed up mine-clearing efforts in Croatia, which are littered with landmines left over from the 1991 to 95 war. And that's our news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Good evening. It was showery with a few squally thunderstorms today. At 5 p.m., a broad trough of low pressure over the northern part of the South China Sea brought unsettled weather to the coastal areas of Guangdong. Today's temperatures ranged from 25.2 to 27.4 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 91 to 98%, moderate to fresh southeasterly winds. The current temperature is now standing at 25.2 degrees Celsius, and the relative humidity is 97%. 26.2 millimeters of rain has been recorded since midnight. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? Cloudy with occasional rain and squally thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 25 to 28 degrees. It will remain showery in the following few days. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 10 to 60, and the air pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 3. And now to the latest global weather update. Cloudy in Shanghai, showers in Taipei and Xiamen. Rain in Guangzhou, thunderstorms in Macau, cloudy in Chengdu. Cloudy in Beijing, Seoul, and Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Bright in Kuala Lumpur, showers in Singapore and Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, rain in Karachi and Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, bright in Nairobi. Showers in Brisbane and Auckland, bright in Sydney, sunny in Melbourne. Sunny in Toronto, cloudy in New York. Sunny in Vancouver, cloudy in San Francisco, bright in Los Angeles. Showers in London and Paris, bright in Amsterdam and Frankfurt, sunny in Zurich. And that's weather. Have a lovely evening.